Hello and welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to look at the 2026 U.S. Senate race in the state of Maine, where Republican Senator Susan Collins is likely to run for re-election. So a few days ago, a poll came out in Maine and they looked at Susan Collins's approval rating along with the approval rating of Governor Janet Mills. Now, we got some pretty shocking numbers out of Maine that showed that Susan Collins only has a 14% approval rating, which for an incumbent senator, that's pretty terrible. So digging deeper into the numbers, overall among all voters, she's got a 14% approval rating, 57% disapproval. Among Democrats, only 3% approval. This shouldn't be a surprise. She's very unpopular among Democrats. Among independents, only an 8% approval rating, 60% disapprove. So she's extremely unpopular among independents as well. And then, very interestingly, among Republicans, she's tied 29% approval, 29% disapproval, with 43% neutral. What does this tell us? Even though she's a Republican senator, a lot of Republicans don't approve of her. They might think that she has not been pro-Trump enough. She hasn't been conservative enough. But among Democrats and independents, they think she's been too conservative. So overall, her approval's pretty horrible, only 14%. That's 1 out of 7 Maine voters that approve of her, and 57% disapproval. That's 4 out of every 7 Maine voters that disapprove of her. So these numbers, they're pretty horrible. But if we look at Janet Mills, the state's Democratic governor, she has a 51% approval, 41% disapproval. So she's plus 10, which is a solid approval rating for a Democrat in a state that Kamala Harris won by 7 points. Now, looking at Susan Collins's electoral history, if we go to the 2020, is the presidential race. So here we have the 2020 Senate races, where Susan Collins, she won by quite a bit, 8.5 points. But keep in mind, Maine does have ranked choice voting for U.S. Senate races. And Lisa Savage, one of the third-party candidates, she got 5% of the vote, but she told her supporters to rank Democrat Sarah Gideon second. So really, Susan Collins would have won this race by about 3.5 points. At the same time, Joe Biden won Maine quite comfortably. He won the state in 2020 by 9 points. So Susan Collins outperformed Donald Trump by around 12.5 points. If we're going to say that she would have won by 3.5 points if Lisa Savage's votes had gone to the Democrats. So a 12.5 point overperformance is very strong. However, if we take a look at 2024, Kamala Harris, still she won the state by 7 points. In 2026, in a state that Harris won by 7 points, in what's supposed to be a bluer environment, we can assume that Maine's baseline is going to be at the very least D plus 12, if not more, maybe even D plus 16 or 17. So in order for Susan Collins to win in 2026, it's going to take a huge overperformance by her, one of maybe 16, 17 points, and I don't think she's going to be able to do it. If she truly does have a 14% approval rating, which this poll claims that she does, she is going to have a very hard time winning this race, especially if Governor Mills runs against her. And in 2020, a lot of people were saying that Susan Collins was going to be toast. There's no way that she's going to win, but she did end up winning, which was a shock to a lot of people. But keep in mind, in 2017, when Trump was trying to repeal Obamacare from the start, Susan Collins, she was very strongly against it. However, in 2025, she has at least voted to proceed on Trump's big, beautiful bill. And this bill, Even though Trump has championed it, the polling shows it's been quite unpopular. And as a result, I mean, this bill could be very destructive to Maine. It's going to remove Medicaid from a lot of people. It's very destructive for clean energy. Overall, it's a very unpopular bill. Sorry about that. And it's not going to help her at all to support it. Also, another thing to note is that our country has become a lot more polarized in the last 5 or 6 years. And we saw that in 2024, Democrats who had, bipartisan credentials. When we look at John Tester of Montana, Sherrod Brown of Ohio, they lost re-election. Joe Manchin didn't even run for re-election in West Virginia. He knew that race was going to be safe Republican. And so really the split ticketing where you vote for one candidate for one party for one office, but you vote for a different party for a different office, that has definitely began to die down over the past few decades or so. And I mean, looking back at Susan Collins' electoral history, back in 2014, she won in a huge landslide, 37 points. In 2008, she won by 23 points, even though Obama easily won Maine by 15 points. So 2008, that was the only time she had to really face a true blue wave year, not counting 2020, and she did really well. But again, we've become a lot more polarized. Ticket splitting has decreased. I don't really see a path for her to win. Now, the Democrats, they have not really done a good job in declaring candidates for this race. You've got a bunch of nobodies. Now, it's looking like Janet Mills may run. She has not decided yet, but most of the credible candidates on the Democratic side look like they're going to be running for governor. But maybe this poll will change their mind and they might switch to the Senate race. But with that being said, I don't really see that big of a path for Susan Collins to win re-election in 2026. I think this is going to be one of the two most important races for the Democrats in 2026. If they want a shot at flipping the Senate in 2028, they have to flip Maine next year. And looking at Susan Collins' approval rating, I think that is very possible. So if you guys enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe, comment, share the video, and I'll see you all in the next video.